You list an amount, a prepaid retainer to CFO to go. How much is remaining on that retainer? The amount you list is $1,500.
Well, I would imagine that most of it is still left. The bookkeeper was I hired a bookkeeper right away when I began the job. And I think she was just trying to close out 2013 for the attorney. And there were also some issues of our financial reports and that kind of thing being hosted by an entity called Atlas that needed to be paid from. It was paid through July of this year.
Okay, and so that may be paid out of the retainer?
Yes, because when all of this happened, no one really seemed to know how quickly a lot of this could happen.
Okay.
And it was just primarily a courtesy for me and board members, you know, for any of us to be able to go online and check on accounts if someone wanted to. So I don't see the need to continue that service. I don't know why anyone would.
Okay. Schedule F, you list a claim owing to the Attorney General of Washington for $560,000. Excuse me, what is that for?
That was the amount listed on a consent decree, and that was, I don't have it in front of me, but I think it was penalties and fines and...
You include a profit and loss statement with the filing, and you list payments to the accountants in April of about $10,000. What's that for? Is that for a current bill?
That would have been to Clark Newber, who was the company that was hired early on to prepare the 990 and the audited financial statements every year.
So was that a current bill?
No, that was paid prior to my leaving, several months before.
Okay. In April, they received, at least according to this P&L statement, they received about $10,000. Did they bill you in April for $10,000, or is this an amount that had been outstanding for a while?
Without having privy to the invoice, it would have been probably charges connected to services they were providing for an IRS audit.
Okay.
CPF.
And would that be for the month of April?
Again, without being able to see the invoice. Typically they billed monthly.
Okay. And typically did you pay them monthly?
Yes.
The entire amount that they billed?
Yes.
Okay. How did Legacy get their money? Because you've got $3,000 a month to Legacy for February, March, and April.
BCPF basically paid for all of their expenses. That $3,000 was to pay for the salary of a woman by the name of Amber Vanetta, who was actually performing all of those tasks associated with the checks coming in, the deposits. So by remote capture, she did all that on the premises of the Legacy offices. So that specific $3,000 was for her salary every month.
Okay.
And the rest of it, Legacy gained through the split that they set up in the contract. And I believe it was an 80-20 split.
80 to who?
Legacy.
And they were paid directly to themselves, or was this, how did they actually get their money?
It was my authorization to release that money from the holding account. So their portion went to them, and our portion went to us. And I believe there was a balance of maybe $3,000 that was left in that account always for contingencies. Otherwise, at the end of every month, all of the money that was brought in through the telemarketing for the previous month was dispersed to the nonprofit and back to Legacy.
Okay. Statement of Financial Affairs, question number 3, talks about payments that have been made to various entities. What was Williams & Williams PSC?
That was a law firm that I hired several days after receipt of the consent decree. The decree did not come directly to me from the Attorney General's office. It went to an attorney in St. Louis, Missouri, I believe, that was hired by Jim Patton the previous year.
Why would it go to St. Louis?
Because they had no idea about me. They didn't know that I'd been hired. And that was the attorney of record at the Attorney General's office had.
For like the registered agent type person?
I guess so. Again, I wasn't with them at that point. So.
Okay. There's an amount listed here paid to Legacy Telemarketing on April 1st, 2013, approximately $67,000. And then it's marked disputed.
That would have been the money that would have been brought in for April. And it would have been put into the holding account. And prior to the end of that month, the consent decree came instructing me not to do business with them any longer. And so I did not authorize transfer of that money.
Okay. Did they receive that money?
No.
So is the $67,000 still in the holding account?
It should be. And I'm wondering too, could that possibly be a combination of April and May receipts? Because after the March transfer, I didn't do anymore. And again, I haven't seen these records for months now, so I'm not sure. But that seems like it wasn't that much money in 1 month. It sounds more like a combination of perhaps April and May.
The $67,000?
Correct.
Okay. In speaking with Mr. Winokur, apparently you have a number of things to deliver to me today?
I do. I have. That's why I was just looking to see what the last date on the accounts were. But I have the bank accounts and other documents that were handed along with all the checks that haven't been cashed yet, the donation checks and the keys.
Okay.
I have the request for an extension for the 2012 Form 990, but I do not have the 2011 actually filed return. But I think Mr. Winokur may have an electronic copy. But either way, we will get that to you.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Lipsy, do you have any questions?
Maybe I'll wait to see if there are any creditors present.
Sure. Are there creditors present for this case?
Yes, Sarah Shifley for the Attorney General's office.
And do you have questions you want to ask?
I just have one question for the record today. I'm wondering if Ms. Eakin knows where Legacy got the money?
Okay. Could you come forward because it's being recorded and I'm not sure that the recorder's going to pick you up that far back. And possibly could just have a seat in the front row. Should pick you up from there.
I was just wondering whether Ms. Eakin could explain whether she knows where Legacy got the money?
It was my understanding that they had licenses to fundraise in Washington, California, Texas.
Your voice is going that direction and the recorder's here.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
It was my understanding that Legacy had licenses to fundraise in Washington State, California, and Texas when I took the position in January of 2012. And they hired a series of telemarketers who made calls to individuals in those states. And that's where the money came from. I believe that they also had tried to fundraise in a couple of other states with little success. And I want to say maybe Florida and Georgia. And again, this was prior to my coming, so I can only speak to what I heard and what I found in records in the office. And then several months, maybe 3 months into my employ, they asked me to complete applications to apply for permission to operate a nonprofit in Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Illinois, and there's one more, but I'm forgetting which one that was. So I did. I filled out applications which went into those states, so they began fundraising in those states as well.
Okay. Yep.
Where they got the numbers and how they contacted those people, none of that was ever shared with us.
So do you have records of the individuals that actually paid the money that's still in the account that you have?
Yes, we were provided with names. At the end of the month, when I authorized the transfer, I was given what was called a blue book. And in that were copies of everything that they had done the previous month, including a name of an individual who had been solicited. I'm not sure they kept the actual checks and money orders and that kind of thing in a safe on the legacy premises. So there was never any other information about mailing address or that kind of thing. I did ask several times for that kind of information in order to start compiling a database for our nonprofit, which is more typically how that's done. I've never worked with a professional fundraiser before, and so I sort of just had to learn things as we went because it wasn't in my work experience. But none was ever provided to me in terms of